Building a new commander deck can be daunting. And whether you're an experienced deck builder or newer to the craft, you will run into some wants. The want to build a more creative and fun deck, the want to test what you know, and the want to set your deck apart from other decks you play against. My deck building style all comes down to a simple question: what if? When this one question is held up to one of 3 different lenses, deck creation becomes prolific. These 3 lenses are mechanical, oppositional, and typal. And stick with me, I will go into more detail on these. It's kind of the whole point. These thought processes, or lenses, make deck building and looking for cards much more enjoyable, and will lead you down a rabbit hole of deck building I hope you're ready for. So log into your Scryfalls and your Mox fields, and get ready to never run out of deck ideas again. The mechanical lens focuses on what a card can provide us gameplay-wise, what the card actually does, and works from there with the questioning. This line of deck building is great as any one Magic card can inspire a plethora of unique and exciting builds. But as far as mechanics are concerned, what cards actually do mechanically turns out to be very layered, and asking these questions about every single piece of information a card gives you can lead to much more enjoyable builds. For example, if I hit random over on Scryfall right now, we get the card Tornado. The mechanical information this card gives us is 1, it adds counters to itself with cumulative upkeep, or sacks itself if you cannot pay the cumulative upkeep cost. 2, we can pay 2 and a green, and 3 life to activate it, and 3, it destroys any permanent. Looking at this first piece of information, let's ask a what if question. What if we can remove the counters from the cumulative upkeep to maximize its potential and minimize the mana we have to pay? Doing a quick Scryfall search for Oracle, remove counter, type, legendary creature, we get some really good options for this card. Falco Spara can use the cumulative upkeep counters to start casting stuff off the top of our deck. Glissa Sunslayer can remove 3 counters from something, both of which just leave us with paying 1 mana for a very strong effect in the form of Tornado. And then of course, Muldrotha. If we don't want to pay the cumulative, we don't have to. We can just play the enchantment out of our graveyard later. Now, this could lead you to building one of these commanders and looking for more cumulative upkeep cards and inspiring a unique build that way. But the card Tornado provides 2 more pieces of information. The second piece of information we get from this card is the fact we can pay 3 mana and 3 life to activate it, which would lead me to ask the question: how do we mitigate the life loss effect? And with a quick Scryfall search for Oracle, life, type, legendary creature, we can see that a couple come up that do play into this loss of life really well. Mercule, Lord of Bones, becomes indestructible if your life total's below half. So if we're using Tornado enough, this could possibly be a way to make Mercule go indestructible. Or another great option would be Strong, the brutish thespian, who plays with the idea of giving yourself tons of rad counters and then using Strong's ability to make rad counters gain you life instead of lose it, which will allow Tornado's life loss to be, pretty much non-existent. And finally, the last piece of information the card Tornado provides is it can destroy anything. Honestly, not much to inspire you there. Sometimes there isn't. The mechanical lens is great as it isn't commander specific. Any one card can inspire a whole build, but of course, it works really well with commanders. Using Scryfall for a random commander, we come up with Garna, Bloodfist of Keld. A 1 colorless, a black, and 2 red for a 4/3. Whenever another creature you control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, Garna deals 1 damage to each opponent. Garna's a great example as she highlights exactly what I meant earlier by look at every single piece of information the card gives you. It may seem like Garna only has 2 pieces of information to work with. 1, whenever an attacking creature dies, we draw. 2, whenever a non-attacking creature dies, they lose life. There's a 3rd piece of info on this card. Garna does the damage. So, where this deck seems obvious and straightforward as a go-wide, aristocrat-style deck, once you look and dig for more information in the card and realize you can give Garna Infect or you can give Garna Lifelink, yeah, the wheels start turning a little bit. Another point for this style of deck building is a mechanical lens is hands down the best way for inspiration from commanders and mechanics in a brand new set. For example, my Lazav deck from the latest Underplayed Commander video on the channel, I used this line of questioning. What if we ran a Commit a Crime deck? Which led me to finding some really gross cards to commit infinite crimes, which if you want to hear more about that, check out the video, it's up in the corner. And with that, let's move into the oppositional lens. The oppositional lens is all about opposites. It takes an aspect of a commander and asks how it could do the polar opposite, or even if it's possible. Another random legendary search on Scryfall gives us Octavia Living Thesis. This 10-drop mono blue commander costs 8 less to cast if you've got 8 or more instants and sorceries in your grave. It's got Ward 8, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, target creature has base power and toughness of 8/8 until end of turn. This deck normally runs small evasive creatures along with small cantrip spells to rush out the commander, begin transforming those early evasive creatures into 8/8s and bashing face. When looking through an oppositional deck building lens, you need to not only look at the specifics of what the card is is telling you to do, you need to ask how the deck is telling you to feel. This deck is telling you to feel offensive, quick, controlling. Through an oppositional lens, what if we made it defensive, slow, and giving? What if the deck actually ran defensive tools in the form of like pillow fort cards like propaganda, crawl space to prevent the table from attacking us, and then leveraging this newfound slow pace and time with more large explosive spells like spell twine or time stretch or, you know, whatever you want to run, and finally run those same instant speed cantrips like opt and consider to make opponents' creatures into 8/8s on their turn to promote them attacking other opponents. Thinking like this very straightforward deck becomes an almost political mono blue goad deck in a weird way. This lens can be applied to any aspect of a card. The commander's blue, what if we ran it like it's red? The commander's notoriously mean, what if we made it group hug? And to be honest, this lens will come up with some empty answers a lot of the time, because doing the opposite is gonna be impossible sometimes. But the inspiration is the real draw to this thought process. Finally, let's talk about the typo lens. The typo lens cares about what type of card we are dealing with. What's the color, card type, and subtype? And ask the question, what if we made that the strategy? A quick Scryfall search for a random legendary comes up with Zalto Fire Giant Duke, a 3/2 red for a 7/3 that lets us venture into the dungeon whenever he takes damage. Through a typo lens, we ask ourselves the question, what if the deck focused on the fact that he's mono red and the fact that he's a giant? With stuff like Giant Harbinger and Quakebringer, and plenty of other mono red giant cards, a giant deck is definitely doable. Throw in a couple of pinger creatures to trigger our commander, along with some mana doublers like Gauntlet of Power and Mana Flare, and you've got a pretty cool build, but I think we could do better. Another Scryfall random commander comes up with Dugon Private Detective. 2 colorless, a blue and a green for an XX. His power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever he enters or attacks, investigate. You can pay 1 and a green to tap him and have him deal twice his power to target creature at sorcery speed. Using a typo lens on this, we could ask the question, what if our deck focused on creatures and humans? With stuff like Captain of the Mist and Hamlet Vanguard, the human side of this deck is very doable. But what if we crank the creature side to just 10 out of 10? Add a companion like, say, Karuga into the mix that requires your whole deck to cost 3 or more, and you've got yourself a 3 CMC human mono creature deck that, honestly, oh damn it, sounds fun. I might have to pick this up. So, in conclusion, if you're having trouble coming up with some deck ideas, or things are getting a little stale, I suggest using all 3 of these lenses and seeing what ideas you can come up with. Make sure to drop a comment, like, subscribe. Check out the Patreon if you want to show the channel a little bit of additional support. I appreciate you guys showing so much support. We've got a ton of cool stuff in the works, so watch out for that, and I'll see you guys next time.